Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 185 of Lonely Gods. I'm your host, David, and I'm joined here, as always, by Kate.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi, Kate.
Well, hi, Dave. Why are we from Fargo?
I don't know.
I don't know, Wait, now I'm Canadian.
It's
Wait, I'm
close
always
enough.
Canadian. Never mind. Yeah, I'm starting to think that the Canadian stereotype is actually people who went to Minnesota and were mistaken.
Maybe.
Maybe. Because, like, the Canadian accent... Wow, what the hell, table? The Canadian accent that Americans do to mock us sounds a lot more like Fargo to me than it sounds like Canadians. But also, my table just fell apart, so just hang in. That's what all this rattling is.
Good job, Kate.
Yeah, thanks.
Break your table right in the middle of recording.
Listen, my prefab furniture with bad welding jobs is none of your fucking business.
Clearly.
Yeah, I'm just glad you're not Matt, because he probably would have had an aneurysm by now. But
So, do we have any Doctor Who news?
we have one item I suppose we can discuss.
Yes.
So Big Finish has announced that Missy will be getting her own box set, and it's not something I'd ever really considered that would be a thing, but I'm also not at all surprised because Big Finish with their new series stuff is like anything at all we can get. It's gonna get a box set. You get a box set. You get a box set.
I really liked
Missy is one of the ones that makes more sense than, New Earth. But
oh yeah, 100%. I know you have some serious issues with Missy. I liked her.
I fucking can't stand her.
I liked her in the last season. I really liked that episode where she dies.
Well, I liked that one just because John Sim was actually being a proper master for once.
Yes, it was the best of all of the worlds. It was that whole. I really liked that whole season. But
it was the first time that the new series had an actual master instead of a cackling lunatic. So, that was good.
I don't know about this because I mean the only villain-led stories I can even think about that we've listened to that I've enjoyed are like the monk, because he's like not a real villain.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've kind of thought about that when they announced the War Master box sets, and frankly, I think Derek Jacobi is going to be a lot better than Michelle Gomez. I haven't heard War Master yet, but I kind of was worried that they would sort of take the teeth out of the Master, and in order to make the Master the protagonist, make him more of an anti-hero, make him a little more morally gray instead of somebody who's actually, outright bad.
Which isn't the character. So
no,
you either do that, which is weird, or you just have him always lose.
Well, I mean, they kind of did that with Missy on the show, where she was planting Bugs Bunny kisses on the Doctor all the time, and it was kind of just gross. But so I don't know. I think honestly, like for something like this, I think it would. My own reservations aside, I think it would depend heavily on what the supporting cast is like. Because I don't think that Missy alone would be something I'd enjoy listening to for 4 hours at a time. I think I'd probably lose my mind. But yeah, I think it depends on the characters that she has to play off of. And I mean, same goes for War Master, obviously, but with the Time War going on, I feel like that kind of a setup like lends itself more to having a more ruthless character at the forefront, just because things are already so extreme.
That's not like that could be somewhat interesting because you are in a war, so there's room for those kinds of stories. When you don't have that type of setting, I don't know what you just do with a villain. Like,
especially not one this annoying.
Just
even if you like Missy, like you can't deny, like she's not the suave Bond villain. She's a clown. And you need a straight man for that to work.
I don't know if I care about the Master when the Doctor's not there.
Well, I mean, I think you could do interesting things, but again, you need to have a strong supporting cast, and you need to have an interesting backdrop.
Yeah, it's
like
risky.
I think there was one of the the third Doctor box sets where the villain turned out to have been like the Master trying out a companion, and then he ditched her because he got bored or whatever. And things like that, I think, could be interesting. I mean, if you're gonna do the Master or Missy or like whatever incarnation, like you have to utilize the aspects of the character that make it different from just the Doctor, but mean. I think so. I don't know. As with everything, I guess we'll see. But I'm not really looking forward to it. So
we'll get there eventually. It's very far in the future. We don't have to care right now.
Well, I mean, part of me is tempted to just draw the line at Paul McGann and say we're done, but
that's not how this works, Kate.
Yeah, I know.
You know that's not how this works.
I know. And I mean, the other thing too with like doing the War Master, like they didn't announce that until after John Hurt passed away. And they got 4 box sets out of him, and I would be shocked if they didn't have plans for more. So I almost feel like the War Master was kind of like a second choice to sort of make use of whatever they had planned for John Hurt. So again, it's just kind of different circumstances to something like Missy. So I don't know what she'd do.
We'll see.
Yeah, I guess so. Fucking heaven help me, but.
So you ready to get into our stories for this week? Because we don't have any other Doctor Who stuff. Because show's not on, and there's nothing to do.
John and I are halfway through the Web Planet. So.
Oh, that's why you messaged me giant ants with people eggs.
Yeah, it's just these are the kinds of episodes. To make me want to just not watch Doctor Who anymore.
Did he finally understand our joke?
Yeah, he did.
What did he think of the giant ants with people eggs?
He thinks they're awful and embarrassing, and it looks like one of the most awful costumes you could ask somebody to wear.
It really is.
It's absolutely terrible.
It's so great. It's so stupid.
They're just atrocious. I mean, like he complained through the censor rights. He thought that was kind of a boring story, which, to be fair, it sort of is. But this is the first like actual like fucking garbage story that I've put him through. So,
it's so bad.
He is weathering the storm.
It's so bad.
But it's so bad. It's so bad. I mean, and it's funny because like I looked through the Doctor Who like episode list, and like for the classic series, there aren't actually like on the whole, there aren't actually that many stories that I outright hate. But this one, this is one of them.
The ones that you do, like, holy fuck.
It's so bad. I mean, there are other ones that I'm not looking forward to, like Dominators or Space Pirates and fucking Time Flight, where the Master is an evil genie for some reason. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
But I mean, the problem is like, because the hubby has not seen classic Doctor Who before, I feel obligated to like not skip any episodes. Whereas like if we start watching like Star Trek again, like we're both super familiar with Star Trek, so like there's no reason that anyone should ever watch Spock's Brain again. Like, so I feel comfortable skipping that, but it's like. For something that he hasn't seen, it's like, no, you have to know my pain. Like you must also suffer.
Don't worry, you'll get past it. Back to the good stuff. But
you will be like me.
At the very least, something like Web Planet gives, like, when I think of the Web Planet, it also just makes me think of Earth Defense Force, which is a good thing. So
the Web Planet, at least, like, despite being so terrible, like, it's at least funny to an extent, in a certain way. Like some of the other bad Doctor, like Space Pirates, is just boring. Like there's nothing
so boring
about Space Pirates. Like
it's got good models.
It's got nice models and it's got a space prospect.
Oh god, the space prospect. Oh fuck.
But you know, I think I would rather eat used Q-tips than watch the Space Pirates again. But
Yes, at the very least, the web planet has brought us nothing with joy post watching it.
oh yeah, it's a rite of passage, I think. But can you imagine, like, can you imagine when the BBC has like exhausted all of the good stories to animate, and like that's like the holiday release is the fucking Space Pirates animation.
Ugh.
Oh man.
All right, let's actually talk about this week's stories. So,
Fine.
first up, we have the next story in our Second Doctor Adventures box set, Dumb Waiter, which was
This
very.
waiter who is dumb.
The story itself was fine, but this was a very fun story because it wasn't unexpected if you look at the cover, but it has also the Fourth Doctor and Leela in it, but mostly just Leela.
Mostly just Leela. The Fourth Doctor very, very briefly through narration, but
Yes.
yeah, so this was a strange one, I think.
So I said it before we started, and I'll say it again. This was a Doctor Who ass week of Doctor Who. Like, it is very, very Doctor Who.
And by that you mean stereotypical?
Timey-wimey, mumbo-jumbo.
Continuity. Guest
Weird,
stars.
like borderline weird magic.
Yeah.
Taking, and especially our trilogy that we'll get into, very modern Doctor Who. Taking established characters and making them weird and stuff.
Yes, they did. But we'll save that.
We'll save that. This episode did not take any classic characters and make them weird. The Fourth Doctor, we get some narration at the beginning from the Fourth Doctor about how this was an adventure, like he called the dumb waiter or whatever, and he knows something's about to happen to Leela, so he's pieced together everything that's happened through these audio recordings.
Yeah, there's 3 audio recordings of this incident. Basically, the Doctor is trying to figure out through these 3 perspectives of Leela, Jamie, and the Second Doctor as to what exactly happened, because it's like sort of with illusions and things, Michael. So they weren't sure what was actually real and what wasn't. And yeah, so basically he's like sent Leela back in time with a time ring and a little memory chip to like kind of find out what's what. But so basically what happens is that the TARDIS lands with Jamie and Victoria. I almost said Vicky, but Jamie and Victoria, and they go through a creepy forest, and Victoria is upset and scared because when isn't she? And anyway, so it turns out that they stumble into a garden party. But something about it is weird because the head waiter, who doesn't talk, like glides around and controls everything without talking. And there's a fat lady who thinks something's wrong with the garden party. So the Doctor and Victoria are having a grand old time. And meanwhile, Jamie, like, he was accused of raiding the food machine and making a big fucking mess because he's a gluttonous piece of shit. And he's like super offended. So he's like, I'm going to catch whoever's been fucking eating out of the food machine. But
why are you
actually
so mean to Jamie?
Because everyone else was mean to Jamie about this for some reason. Like, the Doctor was giving him some serious shit. But anyway, so he's like trying to catch the fucking food bandit. So he's like, stay behind. And it turns out there's Leela who's been the food bandit. So then they beat each other up. And then they, because Leela doesn't understand anything because she's Leela. So she assumes that the Doctor has been like taken away somewhere and that Jamie and Troughton and everybody, they're like invaders. And so she makes Jamie like take her to the Doctor, which takes them to the garden party, which turns out to be an illusion. And because like Jamie isn't civilized and isn't English, so he can kind of like see through the illusion a bit. But the Doctor and Victoria are like snared by it because they are like very English and know what a garden party is. And Leela has no idea what a garden party is, so she just like sees people sitting at rocks and like this horrible wasteland and wonders what the fuck's going on. So together they decide to get to the bottom of it, and basically it's an illusion to like safeguard this giant like rolling ball of tentacle monster that's locked up there, and the dumb waiter is actually like a signal device thing. And the fat lady that they met at the garden party is actually the mate of the monster, and so by shutting down the illusion that enables her to free the thing, but then they escape and the thing is not freed.
Yeah.
So
It's not a great story. It's got some great character moments. Leela and Jamie interacting is awesome. I really enjoyed it. Because it really is the Doctor's two warrior companions interacting, and they're totally different characters.
They're very different characters.
Leela is incredibly smart. She just doesn't know modern, like all of the technology, modern society, all of that. She's a huntress.
She's a huntress, but she's wily, that one. But Jamie is basically
an idiot.
He's not Jamie. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. He's got a heart of gold, but man, oh man.
He's so dumb.
A little bit, and it kind of shows when they fight with each other, where Leela is like analyzing everything and looking for an opening, and Jamie's just like, like
hit.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of one of the, I forget which one it was, but I think it was an early adventure where like there's some alien, he like charges it, gets thrown across the room, and then just like charges it again, gets thrown across the room. That's our Jamie. Complete with that like sound effect, but yeah. I mean I feel like this was kind of like almost making up for that disappointing Cybermen two-parter from the Fourth Doctor adventures, where like the first part was really good because it was like the Cybermen destroying this planet and there was nothing you can do about it, and the second part,
oh yeah,
they like went back in time to Tomb of the Cybermen and it was really boring and nothing happened, and they like hyped it up as like, oh man, Leela and Jamie, and then they didn't actually meet, and the only reason Jamie had anything to do with shit was that he brought like cybermet germs on his skirt or something. And so that was a disappointment and a missed opportunity. So I'm glad they kind of actually did it for real this time.
They did, and it was. I wish the story was a little bit better, but like their interactions were what we could have asked for. Like it was fun.
Yeah, and I mean, I enjoyed this one for sure. I agree with you that the story itself was kind of weak, but more than just being weak, I thought it was bizarre that this is the story they chose for the crossover, because like I was expecting something a little bit more special, a little bit bigger in scope to justify sending in Leela to find out stuff, because it kind of seems like a pretty standard adventure, like I don't really know that this was the kind of thing that Tom Baker would feel necessary to send Leela back, because
well, I don't know if he felt necessary, as if he had memories of this, so he had to. It's time, Kate. It doesn't.
Well, I mean, I guess so, but from a writing perspective, I figure if you're gonna do this like crossover event, then like why would you not make it something different? Because I mean, you could, if you took Leela out of this story, like it would work just fine. Like there's nothing about this that needs to have Leela in it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing about this that stands out as a Doctor Who story. Like it made me think of comparisons to Time in Office, unfavorably so, because that one also brought Leela into a different Doctor's life, and that one was something quite different, yeah. So just to kind of throw out Leela into a Companion Chronicle that could be like literally any other Companion Chronicle over the last like 12 seasons worth of Companion Chronicles, I didn't get it. Like, if you're going to use her, like come up with something that maybe has to do with her planet. Maybe it's like an actual like cosmical threat that matters. Like,
just yeah. All right, so let's hope the next two episodes are even better.
Well, hopefully. I mean, I did like this one more than the bizarre Jurassic Park one, I think, but I think that's just because I have a Leela bias, though.
The Jurassic Park one was
so weird.
So we're going to be talking about that one for a long time, I think. Hey, remember the one where the crippled billionaire transferred his brain into all of the dinosaurs?
Why be a dinosaur when I can be all the dinosaurs? It's like, oh, this is a thing that happened. I was like, grown adults wrote this down, recorded it, edited it together, put sound effects, music, and sold this to people who paid money for it. Like, this is a thing. This is a product.
Yes.
I can't believe it.
Anyway, so next up we have our. So Kurt, you said this last week. This is the Big Finish's first attempt at the trilogy storytelling.
Yes, this was their first. This was their first trilogy after Nick Briggs changed over the monthly range to that format.
So
and they seem to have dropped it now, but I mean, which I kind of feel a little bit too bad about, because I think it's like, I don't know. They're phasing out the trilogies anyway, is what I heard, which is kind of a bummer. But yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
So, and this first trilogy titled Key Number 2 Time.
Yes, the overall title, which I don't think they did again with any of the other trilogies. The Key to Time, because it's time, too
pre or post Too Fast, Too Furious?
Oh, definitely post. This was 2009, so.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, I don't think that's what they had in mind.
This is in past the start of New Who as well, because this felt a lot like New Who. Like,
this would have been like sort of the tail end of David Tennant, I think.
Yeah, this really, I mean, this, and not specifically New Who, but specifically the Russell T Davies era of New Doctor Who, I felt like, but not as good as it could be.
Well, I think the Tracer twins specifically strike me as a very new series idea, but
and taking old characters and doing weird things with them,
which is actually part of the second chapter, so we'll get to that.
Yes, we will get there. So the first chapter is the Judgement of Isskar, where we go back to the Ice Warriors. We've gotten a lot of the Ice Warriors recently, which is somewhat cool. I feel like it was kind of wasted in this story.
Actually, come to think of it, between Bride of Peladon and Judgment of Isskar, like if you're listening chronologically, you got them actually back to back.
Yes.
Yes. I was also thinking back to Red Dawn, but that was actually quite a while ago. So
didn't we? I feel like we had another one not too long ago as well.
Ice Warriors?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Anyway.
Whatever. I don't care.
So the we actually do something I don't think we've done before, which is go to to the height of the Martian civilization before all the bad stuff happened.
Well, I mean, we kind of did in the second Doctor Lost story, Lords of the Red Planet, and this does not tally with that at all.
No.
It really doesn't match. Because in this episode, they're portrayed as like merchants and traders, and they have a barter system, and everyone's very peaceful, and they've become killers because of the living conditions on Mars being ruined. But I think they were already like Lords of the Red Planet, like they were already pretty like militaristic. They weren't outright villains, but like they were kind of.
Well, I mean, the Ice Warriors, when done right, are never outright villains. That's why they're interesting.
No, but I mean, they certainly weren't this. And I mean, it's been a long time since we listened to Lords of the Red Planet. I remember really, really liking it.
Yeah.
But I don't think this quite matches.
But not only so the Key to Time's back. There are 3 segments already assembled. The Doctor has been recruited by Amy, who is a seeker. A being constructed solely to find the keys.
Yes. So the key segments, basically, the impetus for this is that the keys to time are decaying and collapsing, and so they need to be like reassembled and fixed. Because if you remember in the Key to Time season, The fourth Doctor did not actually get all the pieces to the key because Princess Astra was the key, and he didn't want to convert her into like a JO crystal. So he made a fake one and used that, and because of that, like he basically he wrecked it. So now they have to collect everything again. And yeah, Amy is constructed. She's a being constructed as sort of a tracer. In human form, she was made by something called the Grace, and she's out to go and find all the three pieces that were assigned to her. The other three are assigned to her sister Zara, who we'll talk about later. Amy was told not to get the Doctor involved because he'll just cause trouble, but she goes and does it anyway because she figures he'll probably be, useful. So, yeah, the Doctor and Perry had landed on this like weird rain planet, and Amy like freezes time there and stops the rain, and she's like, "Get in, no time to explain. Don't worry about it." So, yeah.
Also, yeah, so then Zara shows up, who's Amy's twin seeker, with some dude with a weird name whose name I can't remember.
His name is Harmonious 14 Zinc, which is another... Yeah. That's another, like, really Russell T. Davies thing.
Yeah.
It's like the New York year 2 billion stroke Apple or something like that. Like, that's... All I was thinking of when listening to this was that fucking, like, the fake educational film from The Simpsons with the world without zinc. Like, come back, zinc. I'm sorry. So yeah. Anyway, the fucking Ice Warrior Martians are building a pyramid. I don't know if it has to do with Sutekh, like because the pyramids of Mars or what. But anyway, they're building this big fuck ass pyramid that's off limits. But unfortunately, the capstone jewel on the top of it is the segment. So.
And it creates a black hole and destroys Mars.
Yep. Because they took it out and made a gravity well and just destroyed Mars. And then they go to the future to a ring world with bugs on it in a castle. And the bugs are fighting the Ice Warriors because Ice Warriors and Zara have like tracked them down. And the Ice Warriors are mad at the Doctor because it's all his fault or whatever. So... And then it turns out the castle is the next segment. So we get 2 in a single episode. They must have realized that, there's 6 things and 3 parts.
Well, Amy already had some segments, I thought.
Well, they gave Zara 2, and so this is 3 and 4.
Yes.
Yeah, because Isskar is like... He was like the local magistrate on Mars that they... hung out with, and he was like mad at them for fucking around with the pyramid. And they're like, Isskar, you became a fucking revenge-driven asshole, so why don't you stop it? And he's like, this is all your fault, you dicks. And that's kind of the crux of their conflict, I guess.
This story's a mess. It's over the place.
I hadn't noticed.
Over the fucking place. It's... I don't even know what else to really say about it. Like, I didn't hate listening to it or anything, but it's just kind of like you're kind of just following it and to see where it goes, and it never really goes anywhere, but like it keeps throwing stuff at you. It tries to distract you by changing the location and what's happening in that moment.
I mean, I guess so, because like we go from the rain planet at the end of time to the Ice Warriors to the ring world with the bugs, and I don't really like the bugs. I thought they were kind of annoying. There was like this whole like intrigue plot where like the Bug Queen was poisoned, and it was like, who did this?
And
like no, I don't think anyone actually cared. But
there are 2 stories in this trilogy with weird, annoying sounding aliens.
Why, yes, there are. So. Yeah, I mean, and it's weird because obviously this is called the Judgement of Isskar, so I kind of figured like once we arrived on Mars that we'd be there for a while. So to leave by the end of like part 1, I was kind of like, okay. And also,
I didn't really love the whole like, okay, we're doing like pre all what we know about the Ice Warriors. We get to see them at their peak. That'll be cool. And then you fuck them all up horribly, like. You don't give me any of what I want, and then you just use it as the setting for this horrific event, and that's like not what I wanted at all.
Would you care to elaborate?
With a capstone, the
No,
black.
I know the horrific event, but like, what did you expect?
I don't know. I like the ice. I like seeing the Ice Warriors. I like when we get involved in Ice Warrior culture. We didn't do that at all.
Well, no, not really. And what we did get doesn't really make sense in light of other stories, I don't think. But yeah, and then the other thing too that I thought was weird about the structure of this is like, okay, so changing location is fine. Again, if you have 6 things to collect in only 3 episodes, like you got to get more of a move on than the classic series would have. But like, this is titled The Judgment of Isskar, like I said, and then like you leave the Isskar thread for so long because like once they leave Mars around like part 2 or something, like you're dealing with bug shit until I think near the end when Isskar finally turns up again, and I was like, and they kind of brought it back. Like he was gone long enough that I was starting to wonder, like, did you really name the story after the guy in part 1 that we don't see again? I mean, maybe I should have known better, but I was definitely starting to doubt that we'd ever get any resolution to that.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, he was saying that like, Zara using her time ring would like pop up every few years because I mean, it's been like a bazillion years. She'd like pop up every few years and like try to like egg them on and stuff. And like, I don't know why they wouldn't have included some scenes of that. Maybe like if they kind of like intercut between the two a little more, would have kept Isskar in the story and might have helped sort of his characterization of going from a magistrate and relatively pacifist to somebody who's kind of out for blood.
Maybe it ran long and they had to trim it down.
I mean, I doubt it. I looked at the tracks on the app, and there are 40 minutes of extras and interviews. Like, if you got room for that, you got room for a few different scenes. But I don't know. What I will say is that I did like the use of the key in this trilogy. I liked that it was more central to the plot, whereas in season 16, like it was basically the White Guardian just turned up and he was like, go find these things, and so you went around and you found the things. But in this, like the key itself is like central, and the decay of it is causing the problems. So it kind of, I don't know, it felt like it was more connected to some of the stuff, because like I loved stories like The Pirate Planet, Androids of Tara, Stones of Blood. Like, we got lots of good stories in that season, but fuck me, do they have nothing to do with the key? Like, so basta. So that's good, I guess.
So that ends, and then we pick up the story in, oh fuck, what's it called?
The Destroyer of Delights, whose name cannot be spoken. So I guess before we move on, we should just say, like, what did you think of the Judgment of Isskar, sort of, in summation?
Mess. It's just a mess. It's not bad, but it's certainly not good. It's just, it feels like it's missing a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of my judgment as well, which is it's all right, but it's real sloppy shit, and I don't know. It's got a lot of shit crammed into it that maybe shouldn't have been, and yeah. Peter Davison is good though. He's quite good in these stories, so I do like that.
He's a very good actor, and it's always funny when I'm just sitting there and all of a sudden, like, one of the extras playing and you hear him talk normally, and it's like, you do the young Fifth Doctor voice so good. Like, I still hear it in your normal voice, but like, you're doing that voice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there's another actress that did something similar that we'll get to in part 3 that I thought I was pretty impressed with. But I mean, it's just, I usually point out when Davison is good, specifically because the personality of his Doctor is very easy to get overwhelmed by everything else that's going on. Whereas like 7 is very manipulative, 6 is very bombastic. I mean, nobody can fucking out ham Tom Baker. So, you know, but 5, you know, he's pretty mild mannered. he's a pleasant, easygoing guy. And when you have somebody like that, occasionally a bad writer will kind of have them just be ineffectual or be overshadowed. And he's not here. And I think the 5th Doctor is usually at his best when he gets to be proactive and he gets to be forceful when he needs to be. So
it's just funny because I see so much of the 5th Doctor in the 10th Doctor now that I didn't get before.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know the whole story and everything, but yeah, I really love Peter Davison. Anyway.
Yeah, he has a reputation as the bland Doctor, but I don't think that's fair.
No, it is not fair at all.
Yes, Adric, 3 is a crowd.
So, the Destroyer of Delights. We're back in, like, Persia, right?
They said it was the Sudan in the 9th century.
Sudan. Isn't that
Caliphate.
in Africa?
Well, Northern Africa, but I mean, that's where, you know, Arabians are from. So, but anyway, at the end of the previous episode, things were fucked up, and the Black Guardian appeared and was like, "Mwahaha." And then, so in this episode, he's like, "Mwahaha," and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "I've been looking everywhere for the next piece of the key, and I can't fucking find it. So I want you to help me because, you know, we need to find it." And they're like, "Well, aren't you kind of an evil asshole all the time?" And he's like, "No, because, you know, chaos and darkness is half of everything, and like, you know, restrictive, overbearing law and order is not good either. So we need to find it so that the White Guardian just doesn't have his way." And so he's like, "Okay, so I was looking over here in Sudan, and I felt like it could be here, but I don't know if it is." And Amy's like, "I can kind of feel the vibes, but can't really figure it out." But anyway, and then some weird bullshit happens where like the TARDIS gets all fucked up, and I don't know why, because this episode doesn't make any sense. And then they land in the fucking Arabian Nights, basically. And so there's like, Amy gets taken to be a slave at the palace for the fucking Lord who is actually the Black Guardian, and then the Doctor is in the desert with some traders, and basically the Black Guardian Lord has not been paying taxes to the Caliph, so he's like sent basically tax collectors with like an army to come get it. And the tax collector is actually the White Guardian, except for they're not really acting like themselves, and they just kind of have bitch fights. And whine a lot, and it's strange. And anyway, so like it turns out the key is like the key segment, basically the gold that the Black Guardian has been hoarding, he's been putting it in a ship piloted by a genie who is buried in the sand, so that they can get enough gold to make a part for their warp drive to leave. And so it's like all of the gold is the key, and so that's why they couldn't sense it, because it wasn't like all assembled in one place until near the end of the story. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of it. They get the gold to turn it into the key, and then they leave, and they ditch the Black and the White Guardian on Earth, and they kind of just bitch to each other. And we don't see Zara at all this episode, I don't think. So
it's
pretty much it.
It's a very odd story. Again,
yeah.
this story just feels like they really wanted to try to write modern Doctor Who, and they got all of the wrong lessons.
Kind of. I mean, on the one hand, I would say that this is probably my favorite of this trilogy. Because I liked the Arabian Nights atmosphere. Like the 1001 Nights episode that we have with Nyssa, it does have kind of a fairy tale Prince of Persia vibe to it, and I do like that as a setting.
Well, it's also because time is like collapsing onto one point, so everything, yeah.
But I don't really like what they did with the Guardians in this.
Well, and you know, I like the setting too, but they did the setting in a way that just makes me uncomfortable.
How so?
Well, just all of the like, why did Amy become a slave? Like the whole plot line with the
Because
the,
she's
the
cute.
harem, the harem leader, and her love for the prince and stuff. It just felt out of place in this story because the prince is the Black Guardian's son or something.
Is he actually the son of the Black
I
Guardian, or like did the
don't
Black
remember.
Guardian like replace his real dad?
That might have been. It's weird.
I don't know. And
There's
Amy,
no.
Amy herself in this story is terrible. She's terrible. Like
She's this
in
mom. They did what's it called? Um that trope that people have been talking about a lot lately, like in
I don't know.
uh
I fucking hate TV tropes. I couldn't tell you.
it's the
But
they did that thing with the childlike girl thing, and it was weird. It was very
I
weird. It was
don't
very
know.
weird in the setting where they're trying to like put her in a harem and she doesn't know what's going on.
Well, see that's okay, so
And
that's
they
the
try
thing. Like,
torturing her, and because she's a construct and not a real person, it like doesn't do anything to her for a long
no,
time.
that was the bugs.
That was the bugs.
That was the bugs that tried torturing her because they thought
Oh,
the
they
doctor poisoned
tried
the
to
queen.
torture her. Well, the harem leader woman tries to beat Amy, and nothing happens. And then she like hits her
Yeah, maybe.
screws.
Oh yeah, and she's like, "Oh hey." Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's Amy sucks in this story because like when she like in Judgment, she's, you know, she's a construct, she's naive, she's weird. But in this story, like she doesn't seem to have any character other than to kind of like be incompetent and say weird things. Like they but between that and the portrayal of the Guardians in this, it's the kind of quote unquote quirk that they try to inject into the new series that just annoys me. Um, and yeah, the Guardians in this, like, they turn them into petty douchebags. And on the one hand, like, okay, you want to portray the White Guardian as, you know, maybe having his downsides as well. That's fine, especially given the fact that he represents order and the Doctor is kind of an anarchist. So that's okay. You want to have the Guardians, you know, losing their powers because the keys are crumbling and they have to make do with, you know, mortal bodies. Okay, fine. But I don't think you have to that then means you have to portray them as a couple of idiots bickering with each other continually over nothing all the time. They never shut up and they keep, you know, they're giving them that, again, quirky haha dialogue, and it's like you turn them into a couple of bumbling fucking clowns and they're supposed to be like these cosmic beings, you know, keeping reality in balance. Like,
It's very weird.
It's a weird choice and I don't like it.
I don't really like it either.
Having said that,
This whole trilogy, I was like, just like listening to it, I'm like, I don't know if I like this or not. And then it was over, and I'm like, I didn't really care for that.
yeah. But anyway, like having said that, I do think that this one was probably the better of the three, just because it tried to have fun instead of just being, and it stuck to one place and one time for the most part instead of just being overloaded with all kinds of bullshit. So it felt a little more focused and it felt a little lighter, and I think I appreciated that.
I like the idea of the Black and White Guardians not being these like ethereal, like non-entities, basically, that one's super evil and one's super good. I like the idea of like, well, no, like the White Guardian represents order, and that's not necessarily entirely a good thing. You don't want either one of them to win because the balance is what keeps everything together. Like, that's interesting. Making them bickering idiots is not.
No, absolutely not.
Like exploring their actual natures was interesting, and that's why I agree with you. The setting and like those concepts was really cool. The execution was not great.
No,
but
I mean it's a shame too, because like I said with when we were discussing Judgment, was, you know, I liked that they put the key as a more central part of the story instead of just being a MacGuffin. It would be nice if they could have done the same thing to the Guardians and had them be a more central role in things instead of just kind of showing up at the start and the end. But instead, they turn into a couple of bickering fucking idiots who just never shut up and shunner away about inane, stupid shit constantly.
You want to talk about another bad decision?
What was it, to add previouslys that take like 3 minutes at the beginning of these episodes? That was totally unnecessary.
I don't remember that. How do I not remember that?
They for this one and for Chaos Pool Part 3, they put previously on Doctor Who at the beginning, and I mean, I guess they were like, maybe they were concerned because this was the first trilogy that maybe, you know, people, if they just bought a random one, they might need to catch up. Because I don't think they ever did that again. Because the only audio I can think of that also had it previously was Zagreus. And Zagreus, that at least made sense because it was the 50th release. It was the 40th anniversary episode. There's going to be a lot of looky-loos coming in. And it was heavily mired in the Charlie plot. It was coming after a 1.5-year cliffhanger. So, you know, that I understand. But this, I don't know. It was just kind of like, oh, I didn't know they tried to do this and then gave up.
Yeah. So the chaos. Let's talk about the end of our trilogy here. The Chaos Pool.
Yeah, that's the worst Dirty Harry, I think.
That's the dead pool with a space in between dead and pool.
Oh God, man, our podcast is less funny than the bitchy Guardians.
Yes. So we see the return of another old character handled in another very weird way. Well, two characters, but one doesn't show up until the end. And it was kind of stupid.
Okay.
It was stupid, okay?
All right.
I was very happy to see the character, but I wish the reason they showed up wasn't stupid, and I wish the story wasn't dumb.
Yeah. All right. Well, so to try and summarize this fucking mess, so the Doctor and Amy go
in the space battle.
Oh yeah. Because so like they go to this fucking good night, husband. Shut up and go away. I love you, but fuck off. Anyway, I'm not playing. I'm working. They go to this fucking hyperspace fold or whatever, looking for this segment. They can't fucking like suss it out anywhere, and so they end up on this spaceship made by slugs from the dawn of time that are irritating assholes who eat each other, and they're gross. And anyway, they get caught, and there's this whole big thing, and they're like going after this spaceship with somebody voiced by Lala Ward, who's referred to as Madam President. Yes. Anyway, so they're attacking that ship. So the Doctor and Amy try to leave, but then it's not actually Amy because Zara turns up and like knocks out Amy, turns herself into Amy, and puts the real Amy in her interdimensional like key holding satchel.
Her bag of holding, Kate.
Her bag of holding. I'm not a D&D faggot, so I don't.
Her subspace bag.
Her subspace pocket bag. And then, so it turns out that the Madam President is not Romana, because she's like, who the fuck are you? And does not know who the Doctor is. She's Princess Astra from the Armageddon Factor, the finale of the Key to Time season on TV.
What a cool idea. Why is it handled so poorly?
Yeah, I was like...
She's awful. She's a mean, awful person. Yes. She doesn't remember anything that happened to her with the Doctor.
No.
So it's like, great.
What a good sleight of hand, though, because the Madam President thing honestly threw me off, and I never in a million years even thought of Astra at all.
I got really excited for Romana, and it wasn't President.
You do get Romana eventually. but it's stupid.
So the doctor at the beginning of the story sends a psychic message to Romana because he's wondering why she's acting weird and not responding properly.
Yes, which the real Romano gets later, but
And
before then, anyway, it turns out that the crew is mostly robots, which is great because then we don't have to learn a bunch of stupid characters. But there's the professor, there's Astra, there's
the mad professor, because
the mad professor, there's Captain.
The professor's evil.
Yeah, there's Captain Fuckstick, who's like the first officer, and then there's Zara as part of the crew as well. And she's fallen in love with Captain Fuckstick, I guess. But anyway, so Astra, like the problem is like the people on her planet are like dying prematurely, like they're aging to death. But she herself has aged like not and has lived like 200 years, and so she's trying to find a cure for this. So they're in this hyperspace fold, and they're looking for the chaos pool, and like the hyperspace fold is like drawing ships from like all over time in the universe to the planet, which turns out to be the rain planet where the Doctor like first met Amy, to look for the chaos pool. And then the slugs attack the ship like multiple times because of time. And
so this is where we get our second set of annoying sounding
the slugmen, yes,
New Who aliens that I could just picture in some dumb big rubber suit.
I was picturing like really bad angry Slitheen CGI.
The Slitheen are the farting aliens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too, but I was thinking rubber suits.
Yeah, well, you know, either or.
Like the big rhino things.
But anyway, yeah, so the ship crashes, and then they all go to the chaos pool chamber where some weird nameless lady has been like summoning people for eons, and Astra is like, I don't know. The professor, like, they got separated. He took the satchel, and so the Doctor and Amy are trying to get the satchel, and the professor, it turns out, is actually the White Guardian again. And then he's like, "Mwaha, haha, I've got all the pieces now, almost." So then the TARDIS turns up because they lost the TARDIS in hyperspace in the explosion, because Romana got the message finally, the actual Romana. So she went, got the TARDIS and the Black Guardian for some reason, and they together like attract them down. But Romana's body is decaying and she's dying because when she, I guess, the mantle of being a key segment transferred from Astra to Romana at the end of the key to time, and that's why she regenerated like that. So she's coming to be converted. And anyway, basically, so according to Amy and Zara, who, oh yeah, because they got Amy out of the bag, and Zara like turned back into her normal self, and the Doctor's like, "Don't do that again. That's me."
And she's like less evil now.
She's less evil now.
Her heart grew 3 times that 3 sizes that day.
It sure did. And in any fucking way. So basically, the chaos pool is like a portal to like some higher dimension outside of the universe where the Grace lives. And so you're supposed to like, it was where the key to time was forged. So I guess they want to like throw it in there to like either be destroyed or remade and solve the problem. But it's kind of an issue because the Slugmen and the followers of the weird lady who decides to name herself Freedom, that's, I guess, fighting. I guess she serves the Black Guardian or something, and they get into a fight with the Slugmen, and then there's a problem because they know, if they convert Romana into a segment piece, she'll die, so they're trying to find a way out of that, basically. So long and irritating and complicated story short, they decide to, like, Astra takes the keyness, segmentness back into herself from Romana, and like is willingly converted because she realizes that after she gave up the key essence, she had to like subsist on other people's life force, and she didn't realize that and felt bad. So now she's a key again, and the Guardians are both like, "Give me that," and the Doctor's like, "Fuck you," and so he like jumps into the chaos pool, and then the chaos pool and the key both disappear. Also, oh yeah, the Grace shows up. It like manifests within the cube of the key to time, and it's like, "Maha," I guess, and it wants to like unmake Amy and Zara and do bad things, I suppose. But again, the Doctor was like, "Fuck all y'all," and just kind of like got rid of the key, so now there's no key anymore, I guess. And Amy and Zara are just people now, I think. And Romana is fine, and she can go on to become the president because we know that she does.
Hearing from Romana is always good. This story is not.
Yeah, I think. So remind me, like, so okay, so on the Rain Planet, like the time unfreezes. The Doctor is obviously going to go back and find Perry. Amy goes to Gallifrey to the Academy with Romana because she wants to open it up to non-Time Lords, which
Yes,
obviously is a big thrust of the reform she's working on in the Gallifrey series.
Yes.
And
then there's terrorist attacks.
And there's terrorist attacks, and K9 blows up, and it's very sad. And then what happens to Zara? Like, where does she go?
I don't remember.
I don't really care, to be honest with you. So, and speaking of Gallifrey, that was one thing that I thought.
Did she go with what's his nuts? Because she was in love with him for some reason.
I thought he died.
Didn't he die remember.
Fighting the Slugmen? Maybe
this story is also a total mess.
Yeah, I don't remember where she goes. We'll find out, but I don't remember for now. So anyway, yeah. Speaking of Gallifrey, we learn in the second season of Gallifrey that one of the reasons that Romana regenerated seemingly so frivolously was because of like the Pandora entity that had attached itself to her first incarnation. And like, I don't know, again, much like with the Ice Warrior history, I'm not entirely sure that this story about Astra really kind of meshes with that, but I don't know.
It was weird.
I just really like Romana. I was happy to see her. I genuinely was.
I was genuinely happy too, and then it was cool when it wasn't her.
Yeah, that was like, again, that was a really nice bit of misdirection.
But then I didn't think they handled that well.
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, like, Astra's like 200 years old for some reason.
Yeah, because she's been living off of other people's life force. That's why everyone else is rapidly aging to death.
Yeah, like why?
I don't know. Because she had to live on something else, because she didn't have the key energy to sustain her anymore, because Romana took it, I guess.
It's so weird.
It's really weird. And like, if our synopsis sounds like a mess, it's because it is. Like, this is really just overly busy. And
then Romana shows up as Deus Ex Machina to follow up on the stupid psychic blast. That it was okay, they could psychically communicate from one ship to another, but also through time and space. What?
Yeah, I've also found it weird that she was kind of just like hanging out with the Black Guardian. Like,
well, they explained that.
They did. Like, yes, she was tracking their recent whereabouts, so she found him in Sudan or whatever, and like
didn't realize that's who it was.
I suppose, I don't know.
Even though she was the one who was programming their escape velocity.
But I thought that she was like he was like feeding on her, and he was like accelerating her degeneration or something.
I don't. There was a lot going on in the story, and I don't remember.
Yeah, like I said, it's way too busy, and it's just like writing wise, it's not very good either. Like it has moments where it's trying to be funny, but it's not. It has moments where it's trying to be clever, but other than the Astra thing, it's not. It's just kind of, it's one of those stories that just sort of just like there's so much shit crammed into it, your eyes glaze over and it just washes over you, and by the end of it you're like, wait, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, no, that's exactly that's an apt description.
That's how I feel watching Marvel movies sometimes. Except for those are usually entertaining and colorful.
Yes.
So I mean, I don't know, I guess they were trying to make like their first trilogy a big event, and revisiting the key to time and following up on the fact that Tom Baker kind of fudged it. It's not a bad idea, but overall, this really fell flat. Like, this was kind of fucking terrible, and
it's very upsetting for you to say that this is the beginning of the trilogy format.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, I'm honestly surprised that given this, like, the trilogy format remained a thing for like almost a decade. straight of the trilogy format, because this is not a good start.
This is not a good trilogy.
I don't necessarily think that any of these individual episodes are terrible, but they're all kind of blah, and the flaws with the overall arc really add up to just kind of irritating you more and more as things progress. I think
this is probably, even though it should be the best one because Romana is here, it's the worst one because it's the culmination of the story and it's just such a mess.
Yeah. I mean, like, when they brought up like the Astra thing, and when they had all these kind of elements in play with the Guardians and the Grace and the more cosmic aspects of the Doctor Who universe, I was starting to perk up, and I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe I'll actually like this one. And then it was like Slugmen being like the entire time. I'm like, oh my fucking god!
Well, and
I was like, here we go.
The reveal of the location of the chaos pool is on the planet from the beginning of the first story. It was like, okay, like we just showed up there and it was raining, and then you stopped time. Like we didn't do anything. It wasn't like that was a location that mattered.
I guess not. I mean, I thought it actually made a certain amount of sense because, Amy did say like, oh, I was literally just born like 3 minutes ago. So, I mean, I guess the fact that, and she's like, I was made by the Grace. And it's like, well, I guess the Grace is there because that's where she was.
Right. But it wasn't significant that we started there. Like, because that wasn't a place when we started the story. It was only a significant place. I
guess not. And they did bring it up again, I think, in Destroyer, or maybe it was in Chaos Pool, but like they brought it up again and were like, oh, that planet is only 60 minutes from the end of time or whatever. And it's like, well, this is a time travel story. Number one, time is frozen over there for Perry anyway. And number two, this is a show with a time machine. So like, I don't understand why this is a problem.
It's like the restaurant at the end of the universe.
Like, it's not a big deal, really.
No.
I mean, yeah,
it is weird.
This was kind of just like the overall plot arc was kind of a fucking train wreck. And then the other thing too, like the fucking Guardians are still assholes in this one. Like their powers are somewhat being restored, but for whatever reason, they're still just kind of snipping at each other and being annoying.
It makes them very weird.
It makes them feel like just.
I liked it better when it was like a weird ethereal golfer with a black bird on his head.
Yes, I mean, I honestly feel like this kind of portrayal cheapens them. Yes, and turns them into like comic relief when they should be like these titanic cosmic beings. And
they should. It felt very comic booky, except it felt like a bad like it reminded me a lot of like the weird Marvel shit, like death and. Like, and when you're dealing with like Thanos and stuff, but it felt like a bad writer handling them. Like you want them to be weird and ethereal and like.
Well, but see, that's just it. Like,
shit.
Imagine if the Living Tribunal and the Watcher decided that they were going to argue over what to watch on TV. Like,
yeah,
that's kind of like what's going on here.
And it wasn't like if the whole story or like that specific story, the story of Delight, was meant to be comedic, that would be one thing. But it's just
I mean,
like
the music was trying to tell me that it was whimsical.
Oh, can we talk about? We didn't even mention the music in this whole trilogy is really fucking weird.
I only really noticed it in Destroyer because it was like like it was like this like Arabian Nights kind of like.
It just felt like bargain basement sound effects and like. I can't remember which specific story it was, but there was just this one like riff they kept playing that was like, Jesus Christ. I don't know.
I noticed in Chaos Pool like the music. And it wasn't really in the forefront. It was like buried like way back in the audio mix. But I swore I kept hearing like Jaws music, or it was like burner for things that weren't even ominous.
That might have been what I was thinking of too.
I don't know. It was weird. Everything about this was fucking bizarre, and I don't like the choices they made. And I do think that the concepts they had here, like they could have had something. They had the makings of something memorable and a good way to kick off the trilogy releases, but this just I don't know. I think the reason that I like Destroyer of Delights the most was just because I didn't have to worry about 1,700 fucking things happening.
Yes. Whatever, it's over. What's happening next time, Kate? I already want to just forget this and move on.
All right. Well, next time, this is our last week of audios before heading back to TV. So it's kind of a collection of and the rest for the Perry audios, I suppose. So we have Mission of the Virens. That is the one-parter that was the other part of the Mind's Eye that we didn't listen to. We have Wet Walls, a short trip.
Interesting.
And we have Exotron and Urban Myths, which is another one of those three-part, one-part releases. So it's kind of the collection of miscellaneous that's left with Perry before we finish off Peter Davison's TV run.
Plus the Iron Maid.
Iron Maid?
That's
the next one?
That's the next in our second Doctor Volume 2.
Okay, the Companion Chronicles. All right. Okay,
all right.
Yeah, the Iron Maid. Huh, interesting. Oh yeah, before we go, I guess we'll talk about this. Just what did you think of Amy and Zara as characters?
They were fine. I wish the stories were better, but they were fine.
Okay.
Amy was a good foil for the Doctor, I thought.
I did like that she became less dumb over the course of things.
I like when the Doctor teaches someone. I like seeing the Doctor teach people things.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably why we gravitate to Leela so much, but...
And Jamie.
Yes, and Jamie. But anyway, I was going to bring up the fact that Amy and Zara have their own show called Graceless. And they're up to 4 box sets now.
Is it any good?
I don't know. I haven't listened to it. I have them all, but I haven't heard them. When I go to the Big Finish product pages for them, they have an adult content warning, so I'm kind of curious as to what the hell that's all about. And if I know for some reason in Graceless, Amy's name is changed to Abby because Amy was introduced on the TV show, and I guess they didn't want a conflict there or whatever, but
weird.
I think they explain it on the show as to why she changed her name, but whatever. So I don't think, honestly, I need a fucking break from this shit, so I don't think we're going to cover that right away, but we will get to it. That's in a little while, if I don't remind me.
We can start it. Why don't we start it after we get the new Doctor?
If we feel like it, yeah. I mean, it'll depend on kind of how busy our weeks are, I suppose. But
that's true. That's true.
Anyway.
All right. So we will be back next week with all of that.
Yeah. A random collection of bullshit, just like this.
Yay! And then we're finally back to TV, and we get to say goodbye to our Doctor. Oh. And then we only have, 2 seasons, but like a bajillion audios?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Bye, everyone.